has seen the swastika. Well, the swastika would not only have a religious meaning, it would have a philosophical meaning, and it would have a scientific meaning. Yes, this type of physics. This type of physics they were that they've talked about that the Nazis were trying to develop or did develop. We don't really know. Having to do with the Glock or the Bell. Very fascinating stuff about two rotating cylinders, two rotating, and which was totally cosmic to them. You remember they talked about man and anti-man. The Aryan was man and the Hebrew was anti-man. They were spinning off of each other in this world egg. Well, that's what the swastika is. It's two of these anglical crosses spinning off of each other in motion. And of course that would be the scientific part of it. But the Glock or the de Bell was dealing with this, and he's talking about this, and Joseph P. Farrell kicks this out, and they're talking about it on Russian TV. And of course it comes to my attention, you know, what is this stuff about? And I said, I have no idea. I thought, you know, these guys are usually just bonehead researchers who are putting out these wild different theories or hypotheses about faces on Mars. Well, what are they talking about? In Mars, when it comes to our race, nothing is more wild than Mars, because, you know, everyone talks about Mars and the planet of war, the red planet. But anyways, that's another topic for another day. But what are they going with this stuff? You know, he comes out with you know, all this stuff about the pyramid structure, and he's not talking about just boneheaded hypothesis. He's talking about scientific research out of the Soviet Union that's even on Russian TV. And now you're talking about cross references between him and Hoagland. And now you're talking about he kicks out a book called Reich of the Black Sun, and Reich of the Black Sun is like, I didn't know what to think of it when I first read that thing. And then next thing you know, he just recently kicked out Nazi International. But this is a type of historical revisionist going on in World War II that has nothing to do with the Holocaust, which is the one that gets all the attention, which is interesting, isn't it? The Holocaust revisionists get a lot of attention for good reason. They're getting thrown in jail. Yeah, what's my opinion on that? My opinion would be the same as anyone on bugs. I mean, anytime you have a historical fact that's illegal to dispute, and I don't care what king, potentate, nation, or even what it was, whether it's a flat Earth, if it's illegal to dispute it, eventually it's going to be, someone's going to find something wrong with it, and something's going to be wrong with it. Or in other words, as Bob would say, it's always turned out to be a lie. Now, does that mean I'm saying Holocaust? No. You know, obviously a lot of Jews died. If they say 6 million, I'll say 6 million. I'm not going to go to jail. I don't know. I usually give people respect when it comes to their dead ancestors, but when you're throwing people in jail for questioning it, it doesn't really matter what some European thinks. It doesn't really matter what, we're only 10% of the planet. The rest of the world looks at this and like, well, there's obviously something wrong with it if you're throwing people, and if an open and free society is throwing people in jail for discussing it, you know, it looks a little weird. Well, the Muslims are saying something, you know, it's what you see is what you get. That's my philosophy on that. But when it comes to World War II revisionism, that's not the stuff going on that's getting attention. That's kind of like a little ethnic conflict model. You know, you got these guys that come out with their revisionist history for good reason. All history is getting revised right now, especially since the invention of the internet. It accelerated because people are talking to each other that have never talked to each other. You know, historians are meeting online and sharing facts. Joseph P. Farrell, I'm guessing, is getting past all kinds of stuff, because you don't put out books like Nazi International. You just don't put that stuff out. That stuff gets out because someone wants it out. I'll give you another example. Shark Hunter. Shark Hunter is an organization that is controversial. It's controversial, but it's not. Most of you have never heard of it, but yet Ronald Reagan belonged to it. It's got about 8,000 members, and it's a who's who of Navy, who's who of politicos all across the Western world and Japan. Yeah, I mean, there's admirals in the U.S. Navy that are members. They put out something called KTB once a month, and they are doing nothing but World War II revisionism. I'm talking about total revisionism of World War II, and they're not even touching the Holocaust, and that's probably why you never heard of them. But they don't have to if you're kicking out the type of revisionism. I got their latest book sitting. It was a book based on a letter that Harry Cooper, who runs a place, got on his desk. And what is the book called? The book's called Escape from the Bunker. It's a letter from Don Angel, who was a famous, I guess, Spanish spy, to Harry Cooper in 1984. When was this released? 2006. You want to talk about wild revisionism. Now, I don't know what to make of all of it. I'm just passing it along. But that's when you got stuff coming out, and oh, is there a tie between Joseph P. Farrell and Shark Hunters? Yeah, he's a member. You got to connect the dots with this stuff. But they're putting out some stuff. They're putting it out there for people. If you know where to look, it's getting a lot of attention. How much attention is it getting? Well, our enemy's in such panic that they went into a UFW hall in Florida just a few months back and started harassing some old men that were members of Shark Hunters. Yeah, there's like a major place they hang out at in Florida, like a UFW hall. These old veterans that are members of Shark Hunters, and Shark Hunters actually specializes in documenting U-boat history, German U-boat history. They're the foremost experts on German U-boat history. In fact, they actually have they have something to do with the actual historical museum in Germany. But what they are is World War II historians, and they're putting stuff out in a roundabout way. I've never seen anything like it. And we're not talking about just boneheaded members. You're talking about like Ronald Reagan was a member. Well, if Ronald Reagan's a member, you got yourself an international recognized group on some level. But the ATF raided them and harassed them for some kind of saying they were playing cards for money or something like that. It didn't go anywhere. But when you see stuff like that happening, that's pretty desperate action. It's pretty desperate action. But they put out a book in 2006 that's got some attention. You never heard about it, but I sure did. I sure did, because you started talking about how Adolf Hitler and Martin Bormann escaped from the actual spy Don Angel Alcazar del Velasco from 1984, a letter you got in 1984. You're putting some stuff out there, aren't you? Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Is it true? I don't know. But there's always a connection between this thread of info coming in. And most of you are unaware of it. Most of you are totally unaware of it. It's kind of tragic. But and at the same time, it's not like something you're going to see advertised on TV. It was on Russian TV. Yeah, these guys are making Russian TV. The Russians are more interested in stuff than us. But it doesn't matter whether it's Eustace Mullins, a student of Ezra Pound, or the stuff coming out of Shark Hunters, or Joseph P. Farrell, who's putting out some off-the-wall stuff. But if you're backing it up in documents, he gave the actual documentation for Himmler's SS group and talking about what they were really doing, because everyone's seen this. Everyone saw them running across the world, but what are they doing with that? And connecting things like the Rig Veda, or 50,000-year-old Sumerian history or something like that, with a modern-day weapon system based on a total integrated science. It's pretty out there stuff. But at the same time, that's the direction the stuff goes. It goes out there, connecting something in World War II all the way back like that. Talking about where they're going with this stuff is well, it's historical revisionism. It is what it is. But that's a good example of our history and how much we don't know. I have no idea, but I've read this stuff, and it is controversial. Because anytime, he is a theological, he specializes in the first 1,000 years of Christianity and the early church fathers. And when you start talking about a total integration of philosophy, science, and religion, it's going to buck up against a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with overturning. If you say the Enuma Elish, which is basically what the creation story of the Bible was based on, it's an integrated version, basically a shortened version. But the Enuma Elish only has a handful of verses dealing with creation. The rest is about a huge war, in his opinion. That's Joseph P. Farrell's hypothesis. But if you read it like a European, if you start reading Indra, if you start reading about the Rig Veda, well, you can come to some different conclusions. When you look at our modern weapon system, you can come to some different conclusions. When you get this stuff coming out of World War II and what they were doing and what happened after that, like Nazi International deals with, or Vrika the Black Sun, or even Hoagland's book on NASA. Most of you don't know this, but most of the NASA landings on the moon happened at precise dates, like Hitler's birthday. Most of you don't know that. Yeah. So what's really going on? I don't know. I'm just simply pointing you in a direction. I have no idea. But that's the direction stuff goes. It is wide sky. Obviously, if a book's coming out called Escape from the Bunker, written by a former spy for Germany, that checks out. Apparently he checks out as a former spy for Germany, but a Spanish spy, about Hitler and Bormann escaping from the bunker in 2006, you'd think that makes some news. It did in some circles in Germany. It did in Russia. You know, if Joseph P. Farrell writes a book, Nazi International, you think something like that makes him new. I mean, he's putting out historical documents. I'll give you the most famous historical document he did. I've never seen this done.